Hello, I'm Dennis Lyons. I'm the editor of the Daily Item in Sunbury and the Danville News, and I'm here with four of my teammates here at the Daily Item. We're here to discuss a series that we are launching on Sunday, the 28th of June, and it's called Black Lives Here. We thought it was important in the midst of the protests and the concerns over police brutality against people of color, that we talk to some of the people who actually live here in central Pennsylvania and ask them to tell us their stories about what their life experiences have been, both here and wherever else they may have lived over the course of time. So I'm joined today by the three reporters and a photographer, videographer who have pulled together the project, and I think it's going to be really worth your while to read and to watch the videos on our website at dailyitem.com. With me today is Eric Scicchitano, reporter Rick Dandes, reporter Elton Hayes, and photographer and videographer Rob Inglis. You all have spent some time over the past 2 weeks talking with people and listening, more importantly, to people who have been in situations that none of us, or few of us, could probably imagine. So let's start with Rick Dandes. I know you spoke to at least one fairly young woman at the age of 19 who had some really amazing stories to tell about what she did just to try to be accepted.
Yeah, I think more than the other two people I talked to, she touched me in ways I never would have understood before talking to her. The impact in middle school, when she probably was about 10 years old, of just the color of her skin. And she didn't really have a backup system. She came from an abusive home, which is something I really did not include in the story. Uh, so she had no one to really talk to. And she tried not to be black. She straightened out her hair. Uh, her father's Puerto Rican, so she tried to look Puerto Rican because she figured maybe the kids would accept her as a Puerto Rican as opposed to being an African American. And she was insecure through most of her high school. Um, this is a person who turns out to be extremely intelligent. Her life was turned around by someone who Eric Scicchitano talked to, a teacher, the only black teacher she had while in school. Um, and I'm actually emailing her now to kind of talk to her about the things I've done in my career to maybe help her out. Uh, I think once she got into the conversation, in the beginning she was a little bit shy. She's 19 years old. I don't think she's ever been asked questions like I asked her. But once she got into it, she was very introspective. I just found her an engaging person to talk to.
Okay, Rick. Elton Hayes, who covers Penn State for us, but also works with the Daily Item on other projects. Elton, you talked to some people who I thought had really fascinating perspectives. The one gentleman who was I guess, a former police officer, or worked in law enforcement anyway, and the other one who was found that sometimes he didn't find the kind of support he needed from among his black neighbors and friends.
Yeah, yes. The first gentleman I spoke with is a current military member, former police officer in the military, and he was sharing his experiences about, I guess, the duality of looking at this as being a former member of law enforcement and a black man. And a lot of times right now with everything going on, we're forced to kind of pick a side. But since he was represented both, and he does represent both. It wasn't as easy for him. He spoke about some of the experiences he had with family members who were distrustful of police. He also, called out what he thought was inappropriate protocol that had resulted in some of these deaths, and said that that stuff is not right. It shouldn't be stood for, and he couldn't condone it. I think what was very interesting. I spoke with him. He has a young daughter. I don't think she's older than 10 years old. And he mentioned, which we will go into when the video releases, but he had mentioned going into local stores here, going to the self-checkout and being eyed and looked at suspiciously. He recalled an incident where his daughter also pointed it out at a point, and just kind of having to explain to her while also trying to preserve that innocence. It just was really, really enlightening, and very sad at the same time that here's a child who looks at the world through a colorblind lens, but yet she's going to be forced to deal with this reality because she does look differently. He also mentioned an experience when he and his daughter and their friends went to, I believe, a water park in Pennsylvania. And one of the young children there said, well, so-and-so is not pretty as pretty as us because she has different skin color. And just kind of, not only how that hurt her, but how that hurt him as a father, having to understand that this is the world that his daughter's going to grow up in. So it's very enlightening, very, very relevant. And I'm glad that we were able to speak with both gentlemen. I guess the second gentleman I spoke with was a business owner, and he spoke about his experiences without having the support all the time of the Black community, which really surprised him and surprised a few of his friends as well. So it was very enlightening, very, very appropriate, and I enjoyed doing it.
I know, Elton, you were some help to our other reporters in helping them to frame some of the questions, because obviously you have your own life story to share, and we may get to that a little while longer in this program. We call this Behind the Story because we do like to share sometimes what our reporters feel and share and experience when they're reporting on major projects. Eric Scicchitano, I know you spoke with Harvey Edwards, who's a Black professor at Susquehanna University, and a few other people. Tell us a little bit about those experiences.
Well, yes, I interviewed Harvey, as you had stated. I interviewed 3 of the young men behind one of the protest movements, If Not Us, Then Who, which is based out of Milton. And I also interviewed a gentleman living in Selinsgrove, Jason Little. One of many things that stuck out to me was this almost universal mistrust of police. I wouldn't characterize it as contempt. It was more a wariness and mistrust, and everyone I spoke to all had their experiences where all 5 of them felt like they were profiled at the very least by police officers locally, but also in other parts of the United States where they've been.
Okay, Rob, you had the rare advantage here of participating in all of these interviews because you are our top photographer, videographer. I like to tell my kids that you're my favorite oldest son. Well, you're my favorite daily item videographer, photographer. What struck you in listening to the voices and the stories of the people we spoke with?
There was a couple things. One was the fact that while they had similarities, everybody had a different story to tell. No 2 people were the same in what they've faced or their opinions of what they've faced. The one thing I think that everybody was the same on was the Confederate flag and what it symbolized to them. I think everybody across the board universally disliked the flag and felt that it was a symbol of slavery, of racism, of things that should not be in the valley. Other than that, everybody was kind of a little bit different on each thing. Nissan Trotters realized that he was a minority within minority as being a Black business owner. It hasn't been the easiest thing for him. Rick was talking with the young lady who was a student, and Eric was talking with some guys who are just probably out of college, not too much older than that, and the things that they went through in school that I never had to face or to imagine. I can't imagine being called certain names and not reacting to it in a negative way, which they seem to realize that they shouldn't react in the way that people might want them to. in order to provoke certain responses.
Yeah, that's something that one of my interview subjects touched on. Kareem KJ Williams. His first day at Milton High School, he told a story about being in the stairwell and being followed by two white classmates. They were older than he was. He was a freshman, and they had, targeted him with a racial slur and basically said that people of his skin color were the reason why the school was going to hell. And the language was a lot stronger than that. And that's an instance where Kareem said he remembers it vividly. He remembers their faces. He remembers their names, and he remembers not being able to react aggressively or meeting aggression with aggression, because he felt if he did, he would be subject to a far greater punishment than the other boys.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Rick, go ahead.
One thing I want to say is that, at least with the three people I talked to, they really wanted to talk. I think they really liked the opportunity. Once they realized we were not going to interrupt, they would just could really get to their some emotions. I saw. I'm thinking of Nissan Trotter, Rob, and he wanted to continue. He just wanted to keep talking. He really liked the fact that we were coming to get his opinion about, very personal things and about, national issues that were going on.
Elton, did you get the sense that people were feeling like these protests and things that are going on right now were potentially making a difference, that somehow some of what's going on might be different this time? Or did you feel there was a more of a sense of skepticism?
No, I mean, that's kind of been the general consensus with friends I've spoken with as well who are Black about this, as well as with two people I spoke with, for this project. They think it's different this time. And I asked somebody exactly why he thought it was that way. Like, why this one? Why wasn't it Trayvon Martin? Why wasn't Breonna Taylor? Why wasn't Ahmaud Arbery? But he said in this instance, for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, we watched a man die on camera. We watched him cry in pain. We watched him cry out for his mother. We watched the life slip away from his body. And like one of the gentlemen told me, no matter how you look at it, anyone with a heart, anyone with a soul will be moved by that. And they think this is why it's the difference.
What about the rest of you? Did you get a sense that people were in any way optimistic about what they might see moving forward?
To a person,
I think everybody that I think everybody I heard said that they were going to think that this was a different time, that this would be lasting, and they were hopeful for it.
Rick?
Okay, I thought Eric was going to speak, but I'll just say, I think optimism is maybe a little bit strong, but they did have a sense that something is different this time. I don't think optimism is the word, but hopeful, yes. Maybe different this time.
Eric?
like I had said, to a person, all five people who I interviewed felt like it was different, and I think Rick makes an important distinction. I wouldn't classify it as optimism either, but there was a sense that this time was going to be different, and the changes that could come out of it would be long lasting.
I'd like to ask each of you to share one moment in particular, or one part of your conversation with any of your subjects that really just struck you as being just an amazing moment, or just something that you just never would have experienced or thought of that before you heard it. Why don't we start with you, Eric?
Well, in interviewing Kareem Williams, who I'd mentioned earlier, along with brothers Frank and Tony Manzano, they had so much energy, positive energy about what they're doing with If Not Us, Then Who. And they've been very grateful for the support they've received from the community. And it's hard not to kind of be affected in a positive way by their spirit. But when I brought up the topic of experiences they had with discrimination and racism, you could see that all just kind of go out like a light, and kind of that spirit, that energy sunk. The room, I felt, grew a little tense, and body language, just when they're recounting their memories, how it still really, really affects them deeply, deeply on a personal level, and angered and probably sad and confused and disgusted.
Wow. Rob?
A couple of them talked about their encounters with police, and none of them seemed to actually call for the abolition or the abolishment of police. I think most of them seem to recognize police are good. But the one thing I liked, that Jason Little, when we talked with him, he wanted to be taken on a case by case basis. He didn't want everybody to judge everybody on the actions of one person. He wants people to judge him on who he is, rather than just saying, oh, all black people are bad, or all white people are racist, or all cops are bad. The fact that he was willing to make that realization that not everybody who wears a uniform is bad, or not everybody who's white is racist, and just treat them as a person and get to know them, that I think was impressive, because it's so easy these days just to lump everybody into one group, and get caught up with that. But the fact that he still wants it to be one person at a time is pretty impressive.
Elton, did you come across a moment that just either stuck with you or in any way surprised you?
I would say, speaking with Anthony Leonard, his experiences of being former law enforcement and being a black man, and kind of looking at it from both sides, empathizing with with members of the law enforcement community who are kind of put in a difficult position right now. The black members of law enforcement, they feel they have a duty to their profession, their brotherhood. And then they also, I'm sure feel they have a duty to their race to stand up and fight for justice. But the fact that he was kind of explaining, being kind of caught in the middle, but also drawing the line where right is right and wrong is wrong. And it really just kind of stuck with me when he also mentioned family members, how some of his family members do not trust police or like police, but yet, he himself was once a policeman. So I never really looked at it from that perspective. I've always kind of wondered about it, but hearing him articulate it and kind of explain it was very interesting to me.
Rick?
I thought it was interesting talking to Nissan Trotter, who owns a fitness business in Lewisburg, how he said that sometimes people would walk into his business and walk right past him looking for the owner, as if a black man could not be the owner of the business. That kind of struck me. And incidentally, Trotter is also part of the If Not Us group, a very vocal part of it. And so he's an interesting guy.
When you guys started out on this project, we had a conversation. We said, let's reach out to some of the black people in our community and see if they'll talk to us. Did everybody say yes? Were there people who didn't want to talk about it?
Yeah, I had some.
Everyone I asked said yes.
I had some turn downs.
And did they explain why, or did you just say no?
One was just fed up and was planning to leave Lewisburg. So she just didn't want to. She just didn't want to do it. But the people that I found were again more than willing to open up, have a voice.
Did you find it tough to find people to talk to you? I'm sorry, Elton. Did maybe? I asked.
I wanted to find. I was looking for the contact information for a third person. I was not able to get that contact information, but the first two people I spoke with, they were eager to speak with me. They did not hesitate and said yes. So
Good. All right. Well, let's wrap this up with just sort of your takeaways from now having been through these conversations. What do you hope our readers will come away with when they watch these videos and read your stories? We'll start with Elton.
I hope the readers look at it from a different perspective. You know, a lot of times we're kind of confined to our own thoughts, our own bubble, our own echo chamber, and it's difficult to consider someone else's perspective or experiences and kind of maybe shape your worldview based on that. So I hope just, you know, this wide range of people we spoke with from different backgrounds, they all kind of have the same experiences. We'll kind of force people, or not even force them, but make people kind of look at this thing a little bit differently, look at other people's perspective, realize that this is something that people have been talking about for forever, and people have the same stories, and maybe make them more introspective on what they can do themselves to be a part of a positive change and make these people feel more inclusive and more included in the community.
Rick?
A couple of, I think one is that casual remarks to someone just by, these people, the people we talk to, they're not representative of their entire race. We talked, these are personal stories, and in no case did they want to be considered, a spokesperson for their race. So I think casual remarks can hurt, that we don't normally think of. The other thing is that I think change is coming. I think you can see by some of the younger people we talk to, change is coming, and thank God for that.
Eric?
I guess kind of building off what Elton and Rick already said, I just hope people are open-minded and allow themselves to absorb the opinions that are shared by our interview subjects.
Rob?
What a couple people said, and I agree with them, was that you should treat other people the way that you want to be treated, and that might help solve some of the problems. Is think about how you want to be treated, and then that's how you should do it to other people.
Okay, well, I appreciate you all taking the time to have this conversation and kind of give our readers some behind the scenes looks at how our series Black Lives Here came together. We are going to have the first part of it is on Sunday, June 28th. Then parts 2, 3, and 4 will be starting on Tuesday, June 30th, Wednesday, July 1st, and Thursday, July 2nd. Each day there'll be 2 new videos posted to our website and stories that go along with those videos in our print editions. And we really sincerely hope that you'll take some time to listen to what our interview subjects had to say. I think you'll find out that it's quite something to listen to somebody who may be different than someone you talk to every day. Thank you for spending this time with us. This is Dennis Lyons, editor of the Daily Item, and have a good day.